This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a review of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the remake of Dungeons and Dragons. There was a 2000 version. There was wasn't very good, except for the political scene, which was better than the political scene in recent Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace at the time. This one, they forgone most of that. This one is as if a bunch of people now in their 30s, and well, some younger, watched the original or grew up with it or something and decided we can do that better. And didn't actually watch the cartoon in the 90s because they weren't there, or whatever, they're the 80s, or played the game, whatever. I'm no expert about Dungeons and Dragons. I've played it all of 3 or 4 times back in the day. Made it to Dungeon Master, and then proceeded to cheat and save all the characters. Kind of like what they did in the movie. Very similar to what they did in the movie. So we have a movie that came out about a month ago with I kept saying Chris Pratt, but it's Chris Pine. It's DeKirk from the movies. Sophia Lilly from It, and as an elf, 2 other people, Indian guys that are doing other stuff, and Rodriguez, Michelle Rodriguez was the fighter lady. I think that's who that was. So we have an evil bad guy, sort of wannabe venture character, chewing scenery. He's apparently familiar with the G1 cartoon, so he's like, well, I'm going to play this guy like he's what would happen if Cavalier became a king, like took over an island like led by a sorceress. So all right, that kind of works. So clearly that was in there, and of course Acrobat is the. So there are some elements of the '90s movie in here. Acrobat is, of course, the girl, the 1-year-old. As for the others, they kind of mixed them up. They made them all the thief, which is different. There were nods to the characters and their costumes from the G1, going back to the cartoon, which didn't actually have an ending. They did a radio drama as the ending, like 20 years later, the anniversary thing. Never ended, which wrapped it up. It's fine. This was done in one of those funky wraparound theater things. The only drawback to it, of which, right away, they projected everything on the walls, but didn't cover the seams of the walls where you could see the outline of the thing as an auditorium. So they needed to do more like IMAX and have the whole room curved, or at least the pieces on the ends, because you could totally, it's just distracting. You kept looking over at the edges, seeing the edges. And when it was IMAX, it was like, and it looked like the screen was stretched a little bit, because it's like the IMAX pieces and it were. But that's the theater showing it. I'm sure if it was in regular, format, it wouldn't look like that. But yeah, when you have IMAX, you stretch the bottom and the top and the sides, and make sort of a larger viewing area. Whereas this shrunk it down to like 16 by 9 in the middle of, but then wrapped around little edges and made it 24 by 9 on either end. It was ultimately like, okay, well, that's kind of just like looking through an iPhone that's been turned the wrong way, staring at the middle of it. Not the effect you were looking for in your movie theater over there at Cinemark. But it was not their fault entirely. You get used to watching the middle of the screen anyway. It wasn't the kind where the seats shake or anything. The trailers were unimportant, really. There was a boring spy movie trailer. There was a TV show, spy movie TV show, ripping off Jason Bourne and a number of other things. Which Jason Bourne is an American version of James Bond anyway, so it's a ripoff of a ripoff. It's not a Jason Bourne series, though. It's something else. It's probably trying to be John Wick a little, too. But you also have, so this movie, back to this movie, you have, and the other previews for the Taliban movie, and The one with the guy rescuing the Taliban person. The person that got abducted by the Taliban in the story, in the movie. And I guess it's a similar actor to the one in this one, so they wanted to just show a movie that he was in. So there's this other guy that's in this one. And then there's the latest Wes Anderson movie, which is the Meteor Town, I think it's called. It just looks really quirky and weird. And also, I think, has Sophia Lilly in it. Looks like it. Yeah. It's interesting that the Wes Anderson fan of the cast, going back to Bottle Rocket and all those, was Mark Scards. And he didn't actually see the Grand Budapest Hotel movie for like 3 years. And then he finally saw it and he said, I don't know why I didn't go and see this. I liked it. I said, I told you you'd like it. I like that one, yeah. Told you you'd like it. He did see Isle of Dogs. He did see that. That was another Western. Yeah. Actually, his quirkiness was what was inspired Napoleon Dynamite, the Wes Anderson stuff. His character from one of his other movies, it wasn't Bottle Rocket, it was the other one, inspired Napoleon Dynamite, and Napoleon Dynamite just ripped it off. It's not him though. It'd be funny if they put him in the movie. But yeah, so we have a lot of yeah, and there was I was gonna see the Marvels, but no, that didn't show that. Yeah, so this movie was. There weren't very many people in the theater a month in, but it was during the day. There were maybe a dozen. It's during the day. There was. Chris Pine is a little younger than I think he's in his late 30s, same age as my nephew. I think though what his age is. Playing essentially the character he played in A Wrinkle in Time, which is weird. But interesting. Maybe the right-wingers didn't like that because of what happens to him in they didn't like the idea of how dare this white guy marry this. They're racist. Stupid. That wasn't the point of the movie, but at all. But the right-wingers are stupid. So yeah, the mother dies. The mother dies. The daughter's a baby. Chris Pine's character He wants to get a device that can bring back the dead only once, to bring her back. They go on a mission with the clearly later to be evil emperor guy. They go on a mission to steal it, and they are betrayed and thrown in prison. And then through flashbacks. They start in the prison and then through flashbacks again. There's also a scene where the protagonist lady kicks butt, or right away kicks the masochistic guy's butt, who shows up in the prison. And then she later kicks other butt elsewhere. And of course the websites like The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic are going to complain about that and say, how could she do that? Oh, this is not the right size and genotype. She can't do that. It just won't work. And men will take overpowered. And it's like, no, it's a movie. Just chill. But yeah, suspension of disbelief. They're in a fantasy realm. Who knows? Maybe in that universe, the women are literally physically stronger and quicker than the men. As what's evident by the evil sorceress as well. So that universe there. The times that I did D&D, it was usually a sausage fest, though. It's usually for boys. There weren't any girls. They didn't want to play it. Yeah, so especially if I was cheating. I found the mage spell. Yeah. Figured out the parameters of the game. Basically, it was Kirk who figured out the no-win scenario. Figured out a way. Changing the rules of the game. Well, yes, no, I wasn't too serious. Everybody was doing it. There's no excuse. Everybody was doing it. There's your excuse. So yeah, they go on an adventure. He's this 30-something guy, late 30-something guy. You have and his friend that's probably 30s as well, going on an adventure meant for well, I guess man, children, and the next generation. A lot of action going on, a lot of movement, trying for that generational thing that the Mario Brothers movie was good at. That same kind of kinetic energy. Definitely an improvement over the 2000 version, which was in theaters by a mile right in the beginning, when they had in-jokes in there that my generation immediately laughed at, like loud. Like, oh my god, oh, that's gotta be in there, yeah. They still made the dragons kind of oafish, but at least they didn't. At least they were clever in their own way because they're like dragons. But yeah, because in the original, in the cartoon, they were clever. They could talk. This one, they don't talk; they roar. But still, it was an improvement of the 2000 version. It reminds me of the Big Bang Theory episode where they played Dungeons and Dragons, which was quite funny. They had the Wallow's character doing that. So yeah, you have a lot of characters playing the game like they're the Arrested Development, and they play to that. They have the characters acting like they're really undesirable, like rogues that are just out for themselves, kind of. And Chris Pine's plan is to rescue his daughter from the evil uncle guy, who's the Emperor King guy, and rescue her, take her out of there, Kira. And remember her name because it's from Star Trek. Yeah, he's already brainwashed her into the bad guy. He's already brainwashed her, and of course the sorceress's powers is probably there too. They have to go find the helper guy who helped them. So there's like these. They go out and they got their sorcerer mage guy from the animated show too. So they get the mage guy. That works. They have Red Emperors. They have nods to Venture without saying it. They want to make a sequel. This movie makes a lot of money. They can make a sequel. The evil sorceress lady has the horn from Venture's head. Keeps calling him something else, but it's Venture's. It's what it's supposed to be. Now, it would be really cool is if they got Peter Cullen to come back and do the voice. That would be cool. If they'd done that, they would have nailed the cartoon, like right there. They would have said, all right. Ooh, he should have been all, and now I will have my revenge. This is all Peter Cullen just mentioned. That would have been cool. That would have been like, okay, yeah. I must get my other horn back. Yes. That'd be like, okay, yeah, you guys nailed it. You almost nailed it. Almost got there. It's a fun movie. It's got lots of stuff going on. Your lovable rogues, your heart of gold kind of thing. The main rogue guy is trying to encourage the magic guy. It's always screwing up his spells, because that's right out of the cartoon. So there are elements of the cartoon in this. Clearly the writers and the director that saw the cartoon and are cosplaying this at Baycon and Comic-Con and stuff for years and decided, let's write a movie. Let's do a movie. And let's actually do a D&D movie out of our cosplay game role play, our LARP. It's like, okay, and they let him do it. The studio gave him money, so why not? Cool. I don't know if it was Baycon, it's probably Comic-Con, but it's similar enough. Yeah, it's probably a lot of Bat in the Sun thrown in there. Yeah, fight choreography wasn't bad. The gags, the jokes kind of worked. Some of them didn't land, but some of them did. At one point, the bad guy gets a potato to the face. That's kind of funny. Like, you figure, oh, they're going to do something brave and awesome and knock the bad guy over with some kind of cool, like, spell move thing, and she grabs a potato and goes and throws it at him and hits him in the face. Well, that'll work. We'll attempt to wrap up the film, the whole thing. That they have to go back. There's 3 acts. A little long. It's over 2 hours, it seemed. There's 3 acts. It flows well. They do a Lord of the Rings type quest. Somebody has to achieve beyond their gains and so forth. Of course, Dungeons and Dragons as a game, and Warhammer, which came later, and World of Warcraft, which came later, were all influenced by something called George Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. So the next generation and the generation after that, the millennials and the post-millennials, you think, oh, it's ripping off Lord of the Rings. It isn't. It's the other way around. Just like back when they showed Lord of the Rings in live action, and they're ripping off Star Wars. They have a master and apprentice and all that. I was like, where did Lucas get it? He got it from Lord of the Rings and Dune and a number of other things. Yeah, it's not. Star Wars isn't original at all. So whenever they do a new Star Wars story where they do a weird episode that doesn't seem very original, like ripping off a Clockwork Orange or something, it's like, you guys do that anyway. Or they had an episode of Mandalorian where they went to a planet where it was a dystopian democracy, and they were acting weird, and they were offended at yet another interracial pairing. It was Jack Black and Lizzo, and it's like, so what? The movie's supposed to be outlandish. They would go to the episode of the planet, you know? So what? Who cares? Oh no, there's somebody who is plus sized on the TV. Yeah? This movie doesn't have that, really. They, except for that, they do fat shame a dragon in this one, so there's something. But there's a dragon. What is he even eating the other guards? This dragon's so big. It gets mad at them, tries to kill them. Of course, because it was offended. Yeah, it didn't want to be fat shamed. So there you go. You know, don't fat shame a giant dragon; it'll try to eat you. But anyways, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, the D&D stuff. It's all of the sword and sorcery thing. Fantasy, which is sword and sorcery and that kind of thing. And Star Wars is high fantasy. It's not really science fiction. It's fantasy. Science fantasy. A lot of Star Trek is science fantasy as well. So it's more like space opera, as Harv Bennett copied and coined and made popular. He didn't coin it, he made it popular. Space opera. He didn't necessarily mean opera like la, oh, la, la, la. He meant opera like a soap opera. That's what he really meant. Space opera. So yes, so I'm okay with fantasy stories, cribbing other fantasy stories, because they've been doing that for years. And actually, Warcraft is a fun movie. I like that movie. It wasn't accurate, but it was fun. It was fun. So it didn't have to be. You know, it was his own thing. And this is someone else's vision of D&D. This is the version that they played, and now we're going to assume that they cheated, like Kal Kat. Oh yeah, cheated on with that game. Oh, there's some other games too. Champions, the Marvel game as well. But yes, now there's a series they could do, Champions. That lends itself to Mary Sue right there, because you build your own superhero and then you're in the games. That would be right up their alley, I would think. It's like, yeah, Liz is up to that. They should bring that back. That was cool. Anyway, so they need to bring that back. But yeah, yeah, we have yeah, they go on a quest. They have to defeat the bad guy. Let's go back to the castle. Go roundabout, go back again. They come across the fighter girls, and that is a character, incidentally. Look it up it's a character. When the cartoon came out in the 80s, they made an expansion pack to Dungeons and Dragons based on the cartoon, like in Legends or something. So you could play the cartoon in the game if you wanted to with the expansion packs. Of course we did, yes. I played the sorcerer guy. I wasn't very good at it. I did do that. One of the games. I wasn't very good at it either. I didn't have a helmet. It was a helmet they gotta put it on his head. It had like a staff thing. The wand never worked properly. It was like beep, 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 malfunctioning. yeah, you cheated last time. We're gonna make your wand not work this time. Beep, 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 beep. Anyway, so okay, so yeah, yeah. So in this one, you have the wand actually works. Actually, they have a portal weapon too. But yeah, that's in the game. Yeah, so it all seems to follow the game pretty well, especially the expanded universe. Yeah. Yeah. I know something of Star Wars and the Thrawn universe, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything about Osaka. I'm not going to say anything. Ahsoka. I'm not going to say anything about it. Just going to grin and chuckle evilly. But yes. So here we have in the end of Picard, but I'm not going to say anything there either. But yeah. So we have the characters. We have a redheaded elf with a wig. It's clearly a wig, but it was a good wig. They put a wig on Alice. But yeah, there's this other fighter guy who shows up, and he's the guy from the anti-Telemon movie in the story. He's that guy. So that's the guy that shows up from that. And he shows up. I forget what his name is. I don't want to say it wrong and offend somebody. But yeah, he has got like a 2-syllable first name and last name. Yeah, he's another warrior. You think he's gonna get with the warrior girl, but he doesn't. He ends up like taking off and then coming back later. A la Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So. Yeah, he's kind of like Gandalf. But Gandalf was a wizard, so he's kind of Gandalf and kind of Pippin and Merry. And there's also a short guy that shacked up with a warrior chick, only to shack up with a bigger giant chick, which was a funny scene. Giantess. You gotta wonder how they can, do it, because they would. Because there's Rule 34, there's a lot of Rule 34 Dungeons & Dragons. Because mostly guys, but yeah, there are some girls, but it's mostly guys, and they've drawn up, scary stuff. Kids, don't look at that stuff. Don't look at that. Don't do that. So don't no. You cannot unsee World of Warcraft either, or Rule 34 from Dungeons and Dragons, D&D. Where do you think the expression D&D come from? But yeah, this movie will be an expansion pack to the game. Yeah, Honor Among Thieves. Be like a sort of a sideways universe. Bad guy, of course, defeated, and the bad guy Wizardess is defeated. Sorceress is defeated. As well, at least they didn't go to Earth, like in the He-Man live-action movie. Back in the day, in the 80s. That was dumb. They ran out of money. They did the same thing in Beastmaster 2, so they weren't the only ones that did that back then. This one, they did not go to Earth. They were in some kind of medieval, ethereal world. I also like that they didn't have... they didn't make too many modern jokes. That was fine. They didn't make... and basically the uplifting ending is be true yourself, and... there was actually a PSA in there, which is kind of funny. Yeah, it was a very, definitely seemed like it was based on a script from a long time ago in some elements, like that, for instance. It seemed like it was based on something from probably 30 years ago that had been sitting around forever. And the other movie came out in 2000, and they were like, oh, God, no. And they put it away for like 20 years. Didn't want to do another one. They should have. There should be D&D. There should be a D&D animated series with manga elements. They've done it over there anyway with some other shows. There should totally be. Attack on Titan's kind of similar, but bloodier. Yeah. Actually, kind of Dragon Ball Z is kind of in the same universe as D&D. They have powers, and they're all magic in that one, but born with it basically. So she has powers. Yeah, she could kick everyone's ass if she wanted to. So that part about, I don't believe that girl could kick their butts. It's like, no, she's a sorceress. She has powers. She's infinitely more powerful than the dudes that she's fighting, because she has powers. And having done martial arts, taekwondo training and stuff, having sparred, co-ed and all that, sparred as guys, girls, and all the likes back in the day, I'd safely say that the women that you spar with are way more cunning and sneaky than the men. Maybe they don't have the strength, but they have this cunning. Maybe they don't have the upper arm strength, but their feet, their legs, oh, we don't want to get in the way of that. Bam! Kick, tack, 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 tack. Yeah, it's like, and then they go around behind you and rail on you, and you're like, on the ground, wondering what happened. So yeah, so in sparring, but only in sparring. Yeah, don't fight people. That's not. But the other characters, okay, you have your thief, your acrobatic character, you have your other like expanded universe, you have the whole gamut of characters. Of course, you have your evil emperor king guy. There's always somebody like that. It's the evil admiral syndrome of the evil emperor guy. You have your Sauron, basically, from the animated show. That guy, Venture and Tiamat, and I said Venture earlier. I meant Tiamat. Tiamat. Yeah, and you have bad guys. You have smart dragons that figure things out, and do stuff, and talk. Sometimes the dragons talk in the game. Sometimes they don't. So this is the one where they don't, but they do kind of sign to each other. I guess that makes sense. But yeah. So and you have elves. Of course, you have elves. You always have elves. And actually, Star Trek has elves. It does. It has elves. It has Martian elf people. Even Star Trek has elves. They're called Vulcans and Romulans. Good elves and bad elves. It has elves. There's elves in Star Trek. There are orcs in Star Trek. There's our orcs in the other series as well. They're called Klingons. The Klingons are orcs, basically. So there you go. Klingons are orcs. Also, Chewbacca in Star Wars is basically a big furry orc. Or he's a changeling. He's a furry orc changeling. Okay, in Star Wars, let's see. Yeah, you have. He's a halfling or something. He's a halfling. He'd be like a humanoid furry creature, a halfling. Even though he's kind of not. He's kind of an alien, but a Yoda is like a dwarf. It's different from a dwarf. A dwarf and a midget. No, a dwarf. Not necessarily a midget. Midget's not a nice word for little people, but like there'd be dwarves and elves and the dwarves. Sometimes the elves would be short as well, and they would have little ears, but sometimes they would be taller. They usually be nymph and skinny. And in Lord of the Rings, they describe them as taller and more white and stuff, but not all the time. So the Netflix series that did the prequel, it said, "Oh, there can't be a dark-skinned hobbit, and there can't be a dark-skinned elf." Yeah, they can. There totally can. Yeah, there's nothing that says they can't be. He didn't describe their skin. He described some of them, but not all of them. Yeah, Sam and Frodo would be white, but yeah, some of the other ones wouldn't be. Gladriel was probably black originally. No, not Gladriel. Faramir. Faramir. So there you go. Black. Also in the Norse stuff from implicit in Marvel movies, there's something to that where they have like the Keeper of the Rainbow Bridge and all that stuff. And that guy could have been black, so they made him black in the movie. Cool, because he probably was. He's space color. Yeah, but that works. Sure. Or warrior ladies. Oh, and the Amazonians also kind of on that same wavelength. So the Amazonians, Themyscira or Lesbos, or 3 different names of the Wonder Woman planet, whatever. The Amazonians, not from the Amazon. The Amazon was named after them. It wasn't where they were from originally. They're from Greece originally. The Amazonians. So they're from the islands outside of Greece, and some Greek islands. Yeah, so the Wonder Women, they're basically the same idea as the warrior lady. There's always a warrior lady and a warrior dude. They don't necessarily get together, which is interesting. They can. There's the lovable fool, which Chris Pine's character was playing. but he was playing him in such a way that he was a lovable fool that grew up, but it mentally didn't, which was kind of fun. So they are making fun of man-children. It's probably upsetting all the Ray winners. No, they're making fun of man-children. No. But yeah, there's a lot of elements of fantasy that's just in everything. So I don't see any problem with it. In terms of what they're doing, it's fantasy. It's high fantasy. They're doing their thing. They're using the tropes. Yes, they're using typically the fool and the wizard, wacky wizard guy, and the sorcerer, the evil bad guys and good guys, and the different archetypes of the characters you'd play in a D&D game. Not as many goblins and trolls in this one. Hardly any, but they are in Warcraft, so play that. There are in that, so you can go over there and play it over there. Also, yeah, Rule 34, that too. It's kind of scary. The Klingons are orcs. Yeah, come on. So are the Cardassians. The Cardassians actually are goblins. So are the Ferengi. What's it? Yeah. So you have orcs and goblins and stuff. The Ferengi are basically your trolls. Pretty much. Troll. Ferengi. They want money, hiding money. The trolls. So, even in Star Trek, they're trolls. There you go. Ferengi are trolls. That make the Cardassians the sort of evil sorcerer guys, I guess, a little bit. Power race too. The Bajorans too. The Bajorans are the druidic characters in the thing. And mages as well. They're mages too. And the telepathic powers of the Beta Zeds, that goes with them as well in there. Yeah, so there's a lot of elements of D&D even in classic Trek. But yes, and later Trek. Yeah, so... Or D&D like elements. How old is Dungeons and Dragons? I think it's ancient, isn't it? Started in the 70s. In 74, looks like. So after the classic Trek. But classic Trek was inspired by Tolkien. The dwarves, the elves, the critters. So yeah, there you go. And the orcs. So yeah. Although in the classic Trek, the Klingons were more like evil sorcerers. Because they were like more humanoid looking. Until the movies, and then they made them more like orcs. The Ferengi, who were the trolls, didn't come out until TNG. But clearly that's what they are. But yes, yeah. And the elves, the cunning evil elves and good elves of the Vulcans. And the Romulans being the evil ones. Yeah. So they're basically the elven orcs of Mordor from Lord of the Rings. Because they're one of the backgrounds of Lord of the Rings is that the orcs are merely elves that have been transformed into being bad. Which doesn't make the Klingons necessarily bad. It just makes them warlike. So, yeah. They do become fast friends with the Federation. 78 years between TNG and the other one. So, classic Trek to TNG. So... Yeah, the elf girl not like in this movie not liking the human was funny because she'd be a Romulan elf, I guess, but she's also a changeling. She's a changelings there too. That's DSI. But the changelings were there earlier. They're part of the game. So the chimeras are part of the game. I think it's an expansion pack though. Not sure. Anyway, I played it. I'm not an expert on it. I just played it. So D&D. But yes. So there's my review, long-winded review of... Yeah, go and see D&D Honor Among Thieves. It's worth it. 3.5 stars? 4 stars? Is it 4 stars? Is it quite? Sure, it's 4 stars. Why not? PG-13, I think. There's nothing really harmful in it. Scary imagery is the cartoonish. Also, there's a weird preview for that new Ninja Turtles. I guess it looks like an animated movie. And as for the Turtles fans, it looks like it takes place in an alternate universe, and it is a megaverse because they did have that Turtles Forever thing. It's a multiverse. Everything's a multiverse. And I would say that it's in the same universe as the cartoon from the later cartoon from 2015 or so. It's in that universe. So if you like that cartoon from 2015 on Nick, that's what it's like. So it's a cartoon. So yeah, and they seem to be younger. They're post-millennial turtles. Even though technically they'd be millennial turtles. I mean they. Let's see. So because you have the millennial generation being roughly 1985, 86 to 2005, 2006, and anybody born 15 years ago would be 2007. So you'd have, so the post-millennial turtles, the teenage mutant post-millennial turtles. Z generation. Z generation. It was okay. There you go. I'm not trying to be offensive or nothing, but I don't know what I'm rambling on about. Anyway, Dungeons and Dragons.